The Great Hall of Concordia Prime was the largest structure ever built in the galaxy. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, a monument to cooperation between species that had once been enemies. Inside its vast chamber, representatives from 142 civilizations sat in their designated sections, each species separated by transparent barriers that adjusted atmosphere and gravity to their needs. Admiral Park Do-yan stood at the center of this chamber, feeling very small. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face marked by decades of military service. Beside him stood Ambassador Yoon Hana, a woman 20 years younger with sharp eyes and a calm, the expression that never changed no matter what she heard. They were the only humans in the room. The presiding council sat on a raised platform above everyone else. Three ancient species who had guided galactic civilization for 10,000 years. Their bodies were strange to human eyes. One looked like a tree made of crystal. Another was a cloud of glowing particles held together by an invisible force. The third resembled a giant insect with too many legs. The crystal being spoke first. Its voice came from everywhere at once. Species designation: human, homeworld, Earth. Member of the Galactic Concord for 31 standard years. You stand before this assembly to answer for your crimes. Park Do-yan kept his face blank. Beside him, Yoon Hana did the same. Crime 1, the crystal being continued. Excessive aggression against member species. Your military vessels have engaged in 17 unauthorized combat operations since joining the Concord. Crime 2. Refusal to submit military vessels for standard disarmament procedures. All new member species must reduce their fleet capacity to peaceful levels. You have refused this requirement repeatedly. Crime 3. Unauthorized colonization of 3-star systems in the outer reach. Territories designated as reserved for future Concord expansion. The crystal being paused. When it spoke again, its voice seemed colder. Crime 4. Interference with the lawful operations of the Velith Dominion in the Kepler system. You destroyed 17 harvester vessels and killed over 40,000 Velith citizens. Park Do-yan finally spoke. Those harvester vessels were killing an entire species. The Kepleri did nothing wrong. They were primitive. They had no technology, no weapons. The Velith were going to eat them. All of them. Every man, woman, and child. The cloud being pulsed with light. The Kepleri are a pre-spaceflight species. They fall under Provision 7 of the Galactic Charter. Member species may harvest primitive worlds for biological resources. This is legal. This is normal. This is how the galaxy has functioned for millennia. It is murder, Yoon Hana said quietly. Silence fell over the chamber. No one spoke to the presiding council that way. We arrived too late to save most of them, Yoon Hana continued. Captain Baek Ji-soo and the Third Fleet reached Kepler 442b to find billions, already dead, processed, turned into food and raw materials for Velith consumption. We saved 8 million Kepleri. 8 million out of 4 billion. She looked around the chamber at the assembled species. Some avoided her gaze. Others watched with expressions she could not read. We make no apology for destroying those ships. We would do it again. We will do it again whenever we find such evil being committed. The insect being made a clicking sound. Your moral opinions are noted and irrelevant. The law is clear. You have violated the Charter. You have attacked a member species conducting lawful operations. The penalty is severe. We call for a vote, the crystal being announced. The question before this assembly: should the human species be banished from the Galactic Concord? Banishment means immediate removal from all Concord territories, termination of all trade agreements, revocation of all legal protections. The banished species will be alone. The voting took less than 5 minutes. Each species registered their choice through their neural links to the station systems. 119 voted for banishment. 12 abstained. 11 voted against. Park Do-yan felt something cold settle in his chest. He had expected this result, but expecting something and experiencing it were different things. Humanity had just been cast out of galactic civilization. The motion passes, the crystal being said. There was something in its voice that might have been satisfaction. Species designation human is hereby banished from the Galactic Concord. You have 48 standard hours to remove all personnel and vessels from Concord space. After that time, any human found in our territory will be treated as an invader. The chamber began to buzz with conversation. Species that had sat silent during the trial now turned to their neighbors, discussing what had happened. Many seemed pleased. A few seemed troubled. Most simply seemed relieved. Yunhana rose slowly from her seat. The buzzing stopped. Everyone watched the small human woman standing alone in the center of the greatest assembly in galactic history. "You misunderstand what you have done today," she said. Her voice was not loud, but the chamber's systems carried it to every ear. "You believe you have punished us. You believe you have made yourselves safe from the aggressive young species that dared to question your ancient ways. You believe that by casting us out, you have removed a problem." She smiled. It was not a warm smile. "You have not banished us. You have freed us from your rules." The crystal being leaned forward. "Explain your meaning, human. For 31 years, we tried to work within your system. We followed your laws even when they disgusted us. We watched species like the Velith commit atrocities, and we were told this was legal. This was normal. This was how things had always been done. We protested," he argued. "We tried to change your charter through proper channels." She shook her head slowly. "You refused every reform. You told us we were too young to understand. You told us that morality was relative, that what seemed evil to us was simply different. You told us to be patient, to wait another 1,000 years until we had earned the right to have opinions. And now you have thrown us out because we saved 8 million lives." Park Doyen watched his ambassador with something like. He had known Yunhana for 15 years. He had never seen her like this. "Here's what you do not understand," she continued. "As members of your Concord, we were bound by your laws. We could not act without your permission. We could not protect the innocent without your approval. We could not be who we truly are. Now we are free. You have no idea what humanity is capable of when we are not holding ourselves back. You have seen us operating at perhaps 10% of our potential, following your rules, respecting your traditions, pretending to be the good, quiet newcomers who just want to fit in." She turned in a slow circle, meeting the eyes of every species she could see. "That time is over. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will stand against evil wherever we find it. We will not ask your permission. We will not follow your laws. We will write our own rules, and anyone who threatens the innocent will learn what it means to face humanity without limits." She walked toward the exit, Park Doyen falling into step beside her. "Wait, the crystal being called out? You cannot simply leave. There are procedures, documents to sign, arrangements to make." Yunhana did not turn around. "We are no longer part of your Concord. Your procedures mean nothing to us." The doors closed behind them. Within 6 hours, every human ship, station, and citizen had withdrawn from Concord space. They moved with a speed and coordination that surprised the watching galaxy. It was as if they had been preparing for this moment for years. The Galactic Concord breathed a collective sigh of relief. The troublesome humans were gone. The galaxy could return to normal. They had no idea what they had. Unleashed. 5 years passed in silence. The Galactic Concord watched Earth's borders with great attention. They placed sensor stations at every approach. They sent probe ships to drift through the empty space between stars, listening for any sign of human activity. They prepared for invasion, for revenge, for some terrible attack that would prove they had been right to banish the aggressive young species. Nothing happened. Human patrol ships moved along their borders in predictable patterns. They responded to communication attempts with polite but short messages. They declined all trade requests. They refused all diplomatic meetings. "We are focused on internal matters," was the standard response. Perhaps in the future. Some members of the Concord began to relax. The humans had learned their lesson. They were staying in their corner of the galaxy, behaving themselves. The crisis was over. Others were not so sure. The Velith Dominion kept 3 full fleets positioned near human space at all times. The Supreme Harvester, who had lost ships at Kepler, remembered the speed and violence of that battle. He did not believe humans had suddenly become peaceful. He was right. Deep in the asteroid belt of Earth's home system, Director Kung Suho stood on an observation platform and watched the future take shape. The shipyard stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. Thousands of workers moved between construction frames, building vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These were not the converted civilian ships humanity had used during their Concord membership. These were weapons of war designed from the beginning for a single purpose. Kung Suho was 60 years old, a thin man with thick glasses and hands that shook slightly from too much caffeine. He had spent his career in the shadows of government, managing projects that officially did not exist. Now he managed the most important project in human history. "How many are ready?" asked the woman beside him. Dr. Imuna was younger than him by 20 years. With short black hair and the distracted expression of someone whose mind was always somewhere else, solving problems no one else could understand. 47 combat vessels fully operational, Kang Suho replied. Another 160 in various stages of construction. We will have 300 ready within 2 years. 300 against the entire galaxy. 300 with your technology, Doctor? That changes the calculation significantly. Imuna looked uncomfortable with the compliment. She was a physicist, not a warrior. She had spent her life studying the theoretical limits of space-time, never imagining her work would be used for war, but she had cracked the equations that everyone said were impossible. Stable wormhole generation. The ability to open a door from one point in space to another instantly, without the massive energy requirements that made the technology impractical. The Concorde had given up on wormholes 5,000 years ago. They used faster-than-light engines that bent space gradually, allowing ships to cross interstellar distances in weeks or months. It was good enough for them. Humanity needed better. "The gates are working?" Kung Suho asked. 12 successful tests. A range of up to 200 light-years with current power systems. We can go further with the new reactors once they are built. Good. Very good. A message alert chimed on Kang Suho's communication device. He read it, and his expression darkened. Lieutenant Commander Shin has returned from his mission. He is requesting an immediate meeting with the Admiral. Bad news. When reconnaissance teams request immediate meetings, it is never good news. Shin Temin was a young officer with a face that looked even younger. People often underestimated him because of this. They learned their mistake quickly. He had spent 4 years leading small teams into the dark spaces between stars, going places no human had gone before. Mapping routes the Concorde did not know existed. He stood now in Admiral Park Do-Yoon's office. His uniform dusty from weeks in deep space, his eyes heavy with exhaustion and something else. Something that looked like grief. "Tell me," Park Do-Yoon said simply. "We found them, sir." 17 of them. 17 what? Shin Temin placed a data chip on the Admiral's desk. 17 dead civilizations. Species that were banished from the Concorde over the past 3,000 years. I have documentation on all of them. Park Do-Yoon inserted the chip into his display system. Images began to appear. Ruined cities on airless moons. Shattered space stations drifting in the void. Mass graves holding millions of bodies. A child's toy sitting in the dust of a world where no children had lived for centuries. "The pattern is the same every time," Shin Temin continued. "A species is banished. They withdraw to their home systems. They try to survive alone. Then, within 50 to 100 years, they are destroyed. Completely, no survivors. Who did this? Different attackers each time, but always major Concorde powers. The Velith destroyed 3 species. The Orith Collective took 2. The Siler Hegemony eliminated 6 by themselves." Shin Temin's voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "They wait until the banished species is isolated and weak, then they move in. Take the resources. Eliminate the population. The Concorde looks the other way." Park Do-Yoon sat back in his chair. He had suspected something like this. The banishment vote had felt too easy, too coordinated. Now he understood why. Banishment is not exile, he said slowly. It is a death sentence. Yes, sir. A delayed death sentence. They separate you from potential allies, cut off your access to trade and technology, let you weaken for a few decades. Then they finish the job, and no one in the Concord objects? Why would they? The banished species broke the rules. They deserve what happens to them, and the major powers share the resources afterward, so everyone benefits. Shin Temin's voice turned bitter. It is a very efficient system. Park Do-yeon stood and walked to his window. Outside, Earth turned slowly against the stars. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. Home to 12 billion humans who had no idea how close they were to extinction. How long do we have? Based on the pattern? They will wait until they are certain we cannot defend ourselves. Probably another 5 to 10 years. They will want to see our economy collapse, our military decline, our population lose hope. Then we need to move faster, sir. Park Do-yeon turned back to face his young officer. We have been building our strength in secret, waiting for the right moment. But if we wait too long, the moment will pass. We need to show the galaxy what humanity has become before they decide we are weak enough to destroy. He pressed a button on his desk. Get me Director Kang and Dr. Im, and contact Ambassador Yoon. Tell her the silent years are ending. Shin Taemin saluted and left. Park Do-yeon looked at the images still displayed on his wall. 17 species, trillions of lives. All erased because they dared to be different, to believe in something the Concord found inconvenient. Not us, he said quietly to the empty room. We will not go quietly into extinction. We will not wait for them to come and finish us. He began drafting. Orders. Humanity was done waiting. The message came from the Kepler system on a frequency no one had used in years. It was not a sophisticated transmission. The Kepleri had no advanced technology of their own. They were using equipment humanity had left behind 5 years ago. Simple radio transmitters powered by solar panels, designed to survive without maintenance. The message was short. It repeated every hour. Please help. They're coming back. Please. Anyone. Help. Commodore No Yoonji received the transmission on her flagship, the carrier vessel Dawn of Justice. She was a small woman with a scarred face and eyes that had seen too much death. She had been at the first battle of Kepler, commanding a destroyer under Captain Baek Jisoo. She remembered the bodies floating in space. She remembered the screams on the radio as Velith harvester ships processed living beings. Into raw materials, she had nightmares about it still. How many ships? She asked her sensor officer. 200 Velith vessels, Commodore. They will reach Kepler orbit in approximately 6 hours. The largest harvester fleet ever assembled. The Velith were not taking chances this time. They wanted to finish what they started 5 years ago. 8 million Kepleri survivors. The last of their species. All would die unless someone stopped it. Contact Admiral Park. No UNG ordered. Tell him the Velith are making their move. The response came back in minutes. Park Do-yeon's face appeared on her screen, old and tired, but with fire still burning in his eyes. You have authorization to proceed, Commodore. The 7th Fleet is yours. Protect the Kepleri at all costs. Sir, the Kepleri system is deep in Concord space. We will be violating their borders. This could start a war. The war started 5 years ago when they voted to throw us out. We were just too polite to fight back. Park Do-yeon leaned forward. Show them what happens when they threaten the people we protect. Understood, sir? The connection ended. No Yoonji stood and addressed her bridge crew. All hands, battle stations. We are going through the gate. The wormhole gate was humanity's greatest secret. A massive ring structure hidden in deep space, capable of opening doorways across hundreds of light years in an instant. The Concord did not know it existed. They did not believe such technology was possible. They were about to learn otherwise. 42. Were Terran warships formed up in attack formation. The gate activated, its ring filling with swirling blue light. One by one, the ships passed through. They emerged in the Kepler system, directly between the planet and the approaching Velith fleet. No Yunji watched the sensor readings update. 200 enemy ships, exactly as reported. They had already detected the human arrival. They were changing formation, spreading out, preparing for combat. A communication request appeared on her display. She accepted it. The face that appeared was not human. It belonged to Supreme Harvester Threll, commander of the Velith fleet. He was a massive creature, 3 meters tall, with gray skin covered in bony plates and 4 arms ending in clawed hands. His species had evolved as predators. They had never stopped being predators. Human vessels, Threll said, his voice translated by computer into flat mechanical tones. You are in violation of Galactic Concord territory. You have no legal authority here. Withdraw immediately, or you will be destroyed. No Yunji smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Supreme Harvester Threll, I remember you. You commanded the second wave at the first Battle of Kepler. You personally ordered the harvesting of the city of Talonvern. 300,000 Kepleri processed in a single day. Threll's eyes narrowed. You remember correctly? I am efficient at my work. I have thought about you often over the past 5 years. Wondered if I would ever have the chance to meet you again. No Yunji leaned back in her command chair. Today is that day. You cannot win this fight, human. You have 40 ships. I have 200. The mathematics are simple. The mathematics are about to change. She opened a channel to all frequencies, broadcasting to the Velith fleet, to the watching Kepleri on the planet below. To anyone in the galaxy who might be listening, this is Commodore No Yunji of the Terran Navy. I am addressing the Velith Dominion and the entire Galactic Concord. 5 years ago, you banished humanity from your civilization. You told us we had no right to interfere in your affairs. You told us to stay in our corner of the galaxy and be quiet. We were quiet. We watched. We prepared. Now we are here to announce a new policy. We call it the Kepler Doctrine. It is simple. Any species facing extinction may request human protection. We will answer. We will not ask permission from the Concord. We will not follow your laws. We will not negotiate. We will simply arrive and we will fight. And anyone who threatens the innocent will face the full power of the Terran military. The Kepleri are under our protection. This system belongs to them. You have 1 hour to withdraw your forces. After that time, we will remove you. She cut the transmission. Threll's face reappeared on her screen. He was laughing, a horrible grinding sound. 1 hour. You give us 1 hour? Foolish human. In 1 hour, your ships will be debris and your crew will be raw materials. I will enjoy harvesting you personally. The communication ended. No Yunji checked the time. 59 minutes remained. All ships, hold position. Weapons ready. Do not fire until my command. The hour passed slowly. The Velith fleet continued its approach. They were confident, spreading into an encirclement formation, planning to attack from all directions at once. Standard tactics for overwhelming a smaller force. They did not know about the new weapons. They did not know about the new shields. They did not know about the training every Terran crew had undergone in simulated combat against superior numbers. They were about to learn. The timer reached 0. All ships, No Yunji said calmly. Fire. The Battle of Kepler 442 lasted 4 hours and 12 minutes. It was not a battle. It was an education. Human ships moved with a coordination the Velith had never seen. They did not stay in formation like proper warships. They separated, regrouped, attacked from unexpected angles. Their weapons punched through Velith armor that was supposed to be impenetrable. Their shields absorbed hits that should have destroyed them. No Yunji commanded from the center of the chaos. Her voice steady, her orders precise. She had trained for this moment her entire career. Every human captain had. They knew they were outnumbered. They knew they would always be outnumbered. So they had learned to fight outnumbered and win. The Velith tried to retreat after the first hour. No, Yunji did not let them. No mercy, she ordered. No survivors. They came here to exterminate an entire species. They will face the consequences. When it was over, 184 Velith ships had been destroyed. The remaining 16 fled into deep space, their engines damaged. Their crews terrified. Terran losses: 3 vessels, 847 personnel. No Yunji stood on her bridge and looked at the planet below. 8 million Kepleri were still alive. They would stay alive. Humanity had promised. Supreme Harvester Threll's escape pod was recovered 2 hours after the battle ended. He was brought to the dawn of justice and restraints. No Yunji met him in the hangar bay. He was smaller than she expected, his bony plates cracked, his forearms hanging limp from injuries. "What will you do with me?" he asked. "We will send you home," No Yunji replied. "We want your people to see you. We want them to know what happened here. We want them to understand that the rules have changed. This is not over. The Concord will respond. They will send 1,000 ships. 10,000. No Yunji shook her head. They will try. And we will be waiting. Because this is what humanity does, Supreme Harvester. We protect the weak. We fight the bullies. We do not give up, and we do not forget. She turned and walked away. Behind her, Threll began to understand that the galaxy would never be the same. The news of the second Battle of Kepler spread across the galaxy like fire in dry grass. Every species heard the story. 42 human ships against 200 Velith vessels. A crushing victory. A message sent to the entire Concord that humanity would not be intimidated, would not be controlled, would not stand by while innocent species were destroyed. Some species were frightened. The major powers of the Concord met in emergency sessions, discussing how to respond to this new threat. The Velith demanded immediate retaliation. The Orith Collective called for caution. The Siler hegemony said nothing, watching and waiting as they had always done. But other species heard the story differently. The small civilizations, the weak ones. The species that had been exploited and ignored for centuries, used as buffer states and resource pools by their more powerful neighbors. They heard about the Kepler doctrine. They heard that humanity would protect anyone who asked. They began to ask, "Captain." Omeran commanded the diplomatic vessel Horizon. She was not a warrior. She carried no weapons beyond the minimum required for self-defense. Her mission was different from the warships that had become famous at Kepler. Her mission was to build bridges. The first world she visited was called Tevin. Its people were small, barely 1 meter tall, with large eyes adapted to the dim light of their red sun. They had been members of the Concord for 800 years. In that time, they had been conquered 4 times, liberated twice, and exploited continuously. Their leader met Omeran at the landing site. His name was difficult for human throats to pronounce, so he told her to call him Elder. "You are really here," Elder said, looking up at her with those enormous eyes. "We sent the message 3 months ago. We did not believe anyone would come. We came as quickly as we could," Omeran replied. "Tell me what you need." Elder led her through the capital city. It was a sad place. Buildings crumbled from lack of maintenance. Streets were empty because most people had left to work in Velith mining colonies, the only jobs available. Children played in the dust, thin and tired, their futures already decided by economic forces beyond their control. "The Concord takes 70% of everything we produce," Elder explained. "They call it fair trade. They say we are paying our debt for the protection they provide. But they protect us from nothing. They only protect themselves." Oh, Moran listened. She recorded everything. She asked questions about their technology, their resources, their needs, their dreams. "What would you do if you were free?" she asked. Elder stopped walking. For a long moment, he was silent. Then he laughed, a sad sound, free. "We have not been free for 800 years. I do not know if anyone remembers what freedom looks like. Would you like to find out?" The Tevin joined the coalition of Terran allies 3 weeks later. They were the first, but not the last. Over the next 2 years, Omeran visited 11 species. Each had a different story, but the patterns were the same. Exploitation, neglect, promises broken, and hopes destroyed. The Concord spoke of unity and cooperation. But the reality was simple. The strong took from the weak, and the weak had no choice but to accept. Until now. The coalition grew quietly at first. Humanity shared technology. Dr. Emuna's team taught alien scientists the principles of wormhole theory. Human engineers helped rebuild shattered infrastructure on worlds that had been neglected for generations. Human doctors established medical stations on planets that had not seen proper healthcare in centuries. It was not charity. It was investment. Director Kang Suho explained the strategy to the coalition leaders at their first joint meeting. The Concord's power comes from division, he said. They keep species separate, competing against each other, dependent on the major powers for trade and protection. Together, you are weak. Together with us, we are strong. But can you protect us? Asked the representative from Nelith, a species of aquatic beings who breathed water and had never known war. The Concord has thousands of ships. You have hundreds. If they decide to destroy us all, can you stop them? Kang Suho smiled. Ask the Velith how many ships matter when you face an enemy who does not fight the way you expect. The coalition continued to grow. 67 species eventually joined, ranging from ancient civilizations that had hidden their true capabilities for millennia, to young species that had only recently achieved spaceflight. What they had in common was simple. They remembered what it felt like to be powerless. And they never wanted to feel that way again, but not everyone welcomed humanity's rise. Intelligence officer, Quan Murray, spent her days reading intercepted communications from Concord space. She was young for her position, only 32 years old. But she had a gift for finding patterns in chaos. For seeing connections that others missed, she found the pattern on a Tuesday afternoon. 3 separate communications, routed through 3 different channels, all sent within the same hour. The Velith Dominion, the Orith Collective, the Sylar Hegemony. The 3 most powerful members of the Concord, species that had competed against each other for thousands of years, now they were talking to each other, planning together. Preparing Quan Murray brought her findings to Admiral Park Do-yeon. They are forming a joint fleet, she reported. Each power is contributing 1,000 vessels. 3,000 warships in total, more than the galaxy has seen assembled in one place since the Great War of the Third Age. Park Do-yeon studied the data. His face showed no emotion, but his hands gripped the edge of his desk so hard his knuckles turned white. When? 6 months? Maybe less. They want to hit us before we grow any stronger. Before the coalition becomes a real threat. Do they know about the wormhole gates? Not yet. They think we use some kind of stealth technology to reach Kepler. They do not understand how we arrived so quickly. That is our advantage. Let them underestimate us. Park Do-yeon stood and walked to the window. Earth turned below, blue and white and beautiful. 3,000 ships. Even with our technology, that is overwhelming. Can we win, sir? Park Do-yeon was silent for a long moment. Then he turned back to face her. We cannot fight 3,000 ships in open battle. We would lose no matter how good our technology is. Numbers matter. Resources matter. They have more of both. Quan Murray felt her heart sink. Then what do? We do not wait for them to come to us. Park Do-yeon's eyes were cold now, calculating. We go to them. We hit them before they are ready, before they can combine their forces. We show the galaxy that the Concord's great powers are not as invincible as everyone believes. That would be war, sir. Real war. Millions could die. Millions will die either way. The question is whether they will be our people or theirs. Park Do-yeon pressed a button on his desk. Get me Commodore No Yoonji. Get me Ambassador Yoon-hana. Get me every coalition leader who can attend. He looked at Quan Murray one last time. Tell them we are done waiting. Tell them it is time for humanity to show the galaxy what we are truly capable of. Tell them the next phase begins now. Quan Murray saluted and left. Outside the window, Earth continued to turn, peaceful and quiet. But in the shipyards and training facilities and planning rooms of a dozen worlds, the coalition of Terran allies was preparing for the greatest. Military operation in galactic history. They would not strike at borders or colonies or trade routes. They would strike at the heart of the Concord itself. Operation Thunderfall began on a single night across 3 star systems at the exact same moment. The Concord had never faced an enemy who could attack multiple locations simultaneously. Their entire military strategy was based on the limitations of faster-than-light travel. Ships took weeks to cross interstellar distances. Fleets could be tracked and intercepted. Defense was possible because attack was slow. Humanity changed the rules, Commodore. No Young-ji led her fleet through a wormhole gate into the heart of Velith space. They emerged above Velith Prime itself, the home world of the species that had tried to exterminate the Kepleri. The orbital defense stations detected them immediately, but it was already too late. Human ships moved faster, hit harder, and coordinated better than anything the Velith had ever seen. The orbital battle lasted 90 minutes. When it ended, every Velith defense platform had been destroyed. Their fleet was scattered, their command structure in chaos. No Yoon-ji did not bombard the planet. She did not have to. Her message was clear. We can reach you anywhere, anytime. And there is nothing you can do to stop us. At the same moment, Lieutenant Commander Shin Temin led a special operations team to the Orith Collective's Central Command Network. The Orith were an ancient species, more machine than organic. Their civilization connected by a vast computer system that managed everything from military operations to food distribution. Shin Taemin's team did not try to destroy the system. That would have been too simple, too obvious. Instead, they planted a virus that lay dormant inside the network, waiting for the right moment to activate. The Orith would not know they had been compromised until it was too late in the third system. Rear Admiral Baek Jisoo faced the Siler hegemony's combined fleet at the Nerith Corridor. The Siler were the most dangerous of the Concord powers. A species of mathematical geniuses who had conquered their neighbors through superior tactics and logistics. They did not make mistakes, but they had never fought humans. Baek Jisoo's orders were not to win. Her orders were to pin down the Siler fleet. To prevent them from reinforcing the Velith or the Orith, she had 200 ships against 500. By any normal calculation, she should have been destroyed in minutes. The battle lasted 18 hours. Baek Jisoo used every trick she had learned in a lifetime of military service. She feinted and retreated. She set traps and ambushes. She sacrificed individual ships to protect the formation. She never gave the Siler a clean target, never let them use their numerical advantage. By the time the battle ended, she had lost 40 ships. The Siler had lost over 200, and the Orith fleet, arriving late to reinforce them, found Shin Temin's virus waiting. Their ship's computers began to malfunction at the worst possible moment. Weapons systems failed. Navigation went dark. 300 Orith vessels drifted helpless in space, unable to fight or flee, but the masterstroke was not military. While the galaxy watched the battles unfold, Ambassador Yoon Hana broadcast a message to every species in the Concord. Not a declaration of war. Not a demand for surrender. An invitation. For centuries you have lived under the rule of powers who told you their dominance was natural, inevitable, eternal. You accepted this because you saw no alternative. You believed that the Velith and the Orith and the Siler were invincible. That their fleets were unstoppable. That their authority could never be challenged. Today you see the truth. They can be challenged. They can be defeated. Their power is not absolute. It never was. We offer you a choice. Stand with us, and no empire will harvest your worlds. No council will banish your children. No law will be written without your voice. Or continue to serve masters who see you as resources to be exploited, problems to be managed, populations to be controlled. We will not force you. We will not threaten you. We simply offer you what we offered ourselves 5 years ago when the Concord threw us out. Freedom. The response was immediate. Species that had suffered under Concord rule for millennia began to rise. The Velis client races refused mobilization orders. Why should they die to protect masters who had oppressed them for generations? The Orith Collective's member states demanded ceasefire negotiations. They had joined the Collective for protection. Now it seemed the Collective could not even protect itself. The Siler hegemony found itself isolated. Their fleet was scattered. Their allies were melting away. For the first time in their long history, the mathematical geniuses could not calculate a path to victory. The war ended not with a final battle, but with a reckoning, 2 months after Operation Thunderfall began. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered in the Grand Assembly on Concordia Prime. Half the seats were empty. The species that had voted to banish humanity 5 years ago now sat silent, waiting to hear their fate. Director Kong Suho presented humanity's terms. "The Concord will not be dissolved," he announced. "We are not conquerors. We are not empire builders. We do not want to rule the galaxy." A murmur ran through the chamber. This was not what they had expected. But the Concord will be reformed. Starting today, the following changes take effect. First, universal representation. Every species, regardless of size or power, will have an equal voice in this assembly. No more votes weighted by military strength. No more decisions made by the powerful and imposed on the weak. Second, no harvesting of sentient species under any circumstances. Provision 7 of the Galactic Charter is abolished immediately. The practice that allowed the Velith to exterminate billions of innocent beings is ended forever. Third, no banishment without unanimous consent. If you want to throw a species out of the Concord, every single member must agree. Not a majority. Not 90%, everyone. Because we have seen what happens to banished species, and we will not allow it to continue. Fourth, violations of these rules will be met with force. The coalition of Terran allies will serve as the enforcement mechanism. We will protect the weak. We will punish the strong who abuse their power. We will not ask permission. Kong Suho paused and looked around the chamber. "You asked us once what kind of species we were. You decided we were too aggressive, too violent, too unwilling to accept your rules. You were right. We do not accept rules that allow genocide. We do not accept laws that protect the powerful at the expense of the powerless. We do not accept traditions simply because they are old. We're the kind of species that remembers being weak. We are the kind that protects those who cannot protect themselves. We are the kind that does not forget." Ambassador Yunhana stood beside him. She was older now, her hair turning gray, but her eyes were the same, sharp, determined, unafraid. 5 years ago, I told you that you had freed us from your rules," she said. "Today, we offer you freedom from them as well. Not the freedom to do whatever you want without consequences. The freedom to live without fear. The freedom to grow without being harvested. The freedom to speak without being silenced." She smiled, the same smile she had worn on the day of the banishment vote. "You made us understand your rules. Now you understand ours." The vote was called. 112 species voted to accept the new charter. 3 voted against. The rest abstained. It was enough. 50 years later, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The coalition of Terran allies had grown to include 67 species. They were no longer just an alliance, but a family, bound together by shared values and shared history. The Concord existed still, but it was different now. Smaller, humbler, a forum for trade disputes rather than a tool for oppression. On Earth, a monument stood in Geneva, a simple black stone bearing the names of every human who had died in the wars. Beside it, smaller stones honored the Kapleri, the Tevin, the Neloth, and all the other species humanity had chosen to protect. Admiral Park Doyon visited the memorial every year on the anniversary of the banishment vote. He was very old now, using a walking stick to move, his body failing even as his mind remained sharp. Reporters still asked him the same question. Was it worth it? He looked at the sky, where alien ships now docked peacefully at orbital stations. He watched children of a dozen species playing together in the park, their laughter mixing in the air. He remembered the images Shin Taemin had shown him long ago. 17 dead civilizations. Trillions of lives erased because they dared to be different. They thought banishing us would make them safe, he said. They forgot the most dangerous thing in the universe is not a species with nothing to lose. He watched a human child share food with a Kapleri child, both of them laughing at something only they understood. It is a species with something to protect. He walked away from the memorial. Leaving the reporters behind, above him, the stars shone bright and welcoming. No longer cold and hostile, humanity had made the galaxy understand their rules, and the galaxy was better for it.